The goal of today's class is not to teach you anything about sociology or race relations, but rather to make us all better human beings. So that's what this is about today. And we're going to talk about love, tragedy, greed, and war. And they all go together, and you will see why by the end of the class. This is actually it's a difficult class for me to do, to be honest with you. So we're doing a live experiment in empathy. All right, next slide. So I just want to I've talked about the military, I've talked about war, and I want to be clear about a point that I've made that I think is really important for all of us ethically and morally to be thinking about. Military exists for protection and defense, and militaries are often used for offense and for greed and expansion, and it's often pushed forward because it's a business. People make profits from war, they make profits from the military, and it's big money. It's big money, bigger than any other industry in the world. And when people can make money off of an industry, then their desire is to make war and go to war and see conflict. And the more conflict they see in the world, the better for them because their profits go up. That's not true for everybody. I know people who work in the military, the defense industry, whose paychecks come from making weapons of war, and they don't like it, and they would like to be in a different industry. They'd like war to go away. It's not that there's this nefarious thing where these people sit in back rooms and they plot and they manipulate and they ensure that people all over the world are fighting and killing each other. But the fact of the matter is it's big business and the way things operate that people make money and profits and get filthy rich over people killing others. And I suppose that should all just make us pause for a second because lives are impacted. So just as a kind of an example of this, that's at the top of that picture is Ronald Reagan. And he's talking to the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, who we funded and supplied with weapons because they were fighting the Russians. And at the time, in the early 80s, the Russians were our enemies, and we gave them a lot of weapons. And these turned out to be the same factions of people who ultimately turned around and were part and parcel of the attacks on 9/11. So you build up an enemy because that enemy is fighting your enemy, but sometimes it turns around and that enemy comes back and hurts you. So because we made people with profits to gain and personal interest and power to be won, people in very powerful decisions or very powerful positions made decisions to support war and violence and bloodshed that ultimately came back and really harmed the United States in some very horrible ways. It's just one example. I could give you 1,000 examples of this. And it matters. It mattered to your two classmates who were sitting up here in the front of the class, who were asked to go off and fight in a war that they didn't start nor participate in any way. Next slide. So 911 happens. 911, there's so many factors and forces behind 911. And immediately after 911, we decide, okay, we got to go after who we think is the mastermind of this. And of course, that's Osama bin Laden, we decided. And then we go after him. But something else happens. A group of people who were making these decisions in the United States at the time also were very involved in the oil industry and in the arms industry. And they had a certain mentality about moving forward. And so they take it as an opportunity to say, go to the next slide, let's go into Iraq. Because, we've been kind of battling it out with Iraq. We fought one war, and that was 10 years ago, and let's do another one. But here's what happened. What we've now discovered is that before they even came into power, they were writing white papers about the value of going into Iraq to get Iraqi oil. They already had in their minds to go into this country and get the oil, to expand for market reasons and to expand for global control and hegemonic superiority. So why go to Iraq? So here are people making these decisions, massive decisions, and they bungled it. They completely bungled it. And then what happened was just this domino effect. And whether it had been Republicans or Democrats, because Barack Obama and his regime and his group bungled lots and lots of wars. And the fear, of course, is that our current president will do the same thing. And people go in and not understand that when you go in with military might, things happen, not only to your land, but to people in other countries. In this particular case, suddenly the entire Middle East is embroiled in a deep conflict. Contrary to popular positioning and thinking here in the United States, the Middle East has not always been at war. Middle Eastern people are not inherently violent. All the excuses that we can come up with to accept the fact that war is happening over and over and over, year after year, we're sending troops there, things are happening, coming back here, that all the excuses, the reasons that we can come up with really don't hold water. But it gives us a way to see them as a them, so we don't have to take responsibility. So it's not on us. But it's very clear that in large part, that war, that invasion of Iraq, to expel a dictator who was our ally just a decade earlier and to whom we sold many, many weapons, even when he was killing his own people and gassing his own people, we still sold him weapons of war. That didn't matter. That's not why we went there. We went largely for oil. Okay? Are we cool? Now, next slide. So in the middle of this breakdown in Iraq, I did a class. I taught a class that I named Christian Invaders, about how Iraqis would see the Americans, identify us as Christians, because we're mostly a Christian nation, coming for their oil, invading their lands for their oil, the invading armies of Christians coming to steal and take somebody else's resource, in this case, oil. And I took that class that I did in here quite a number of times. And it was not anti-Christian, by the way. It was just a look at how Iraqis would see things. And I took that class and I turned it into a talk, an 18-minute talk. And I called it a radical experiment in empathy. And the talk immediately went viral in the Middle East. It was translated into it's been translated into 35 or 36 languages. The first language it got translated in was Arabic. And it went viral very quickly. And I started hearing back from people in the Middle East who said, thanks for telling our story. Thanks for telling this story of the American invasion in Iraq the way so many of us see it. These weren't academics. These weren't extremists. These were average Arab Muslims living in Iraq who said, it really is what we have to wrestle with. Even those of us who really love the United States, we have to wrestle with this. Because we have to somehow comprehend the fact that you're coming here for oil. So the talk continued, and now I don't know how many people, it's estimated maybe like 3.5 million people have seen the talk in the years since I did it. But I continued to hear back from lots and lots of people. And one day I get an email. And this gentleman from Iraq emails me, and he said, Dr. Richards, thank you for doing that talk, because you really spoke for me and my friends. And I said, wow, thanks. And I emailed back. And I said, hey, maybe we can talk sometime. I want to know what you see. Because at that point in time, I hadn't spoken with a lot of Iraqis. I want to know what you see. So we set up a time and we Skyped. And then we established a friendship. And we talked quite a number of times. He came into my class via Skype. I used to teach a class on the sociology of war. He came into that class. He came into this class. He would send me Christmas greetings and birthday greetings, and I would send him greetings for Eid and his birthday, and we stayed in contact on Facebook, sharing things and constantly, and texting and all sorts of ways. Can you go to the next slide? And that's my friend. And one of the things that was very interesting about him is that he knew the United States well because he studied in the United States. He took his master's degree here, so he speaks English very well. And he understood me because I'm a Midwesterner, and so we were all good. So go to the next slide. There he is when he was working on his master's degree with his wife, Mayada. Just doing what you do in graduate school. Sitting on the floor, eating pizza, and living life. Next slide. There was his graduation. His cousin, who has a cool name, by the way. His wife. Beautiful. She's beautiful. Yeah? Look how happy. A life ahead. Next slide. There they are with American friends. This is back in the 80s, you know. That's how we looked back then. Next slide. There he is with his friends. Very connected to the U.S. Loves the U.S. Had a great time in graduate school, was treated very, very well here. Next slide. That's his home. You know, in Iraq, a lot of times many families will live under one roof. You'll have a plot of land, build a house. Beautiful home. Beautiful home, yeah. Nice house. He was an engineer. Next slide. That's his brother's home. It's right next door. Beautiful home. And you know, go to the next one. You know, the thing is, we have this idea, I hear Americans talking about Iraq as a shithole, and Iraq is really poor, and Iraq is, it's been a pretty amazing place. Also very modern in many ways. So here's the gates to the University of Mosul. Looks beautiful, right? It's more beautiful than our gates, I have to say. Allen Street gates are nice, but that's cooler. Imagine that was at Allen Street. Next slide.
Yo, by the way, laptops are off, especially for today's class. This is going to...
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Next slide. Here's a shopping mall in Mosul. Mosul's where he lives, by the way. It's his family's from. So it's like, you know, anywhere you go, you look at photos, you look at places. You have this idea that places are really, really, really bad, and you know they've been bombed. We're always at war. They're not always at war, y'all. They're not always at war. They're sometimes at war. In this particular case, they're at war when their dictator, remember who we supported, went to war. And they're at war when we invade and bomb them and all sorts of things, but they're not always at war. So look here. Okay? But then there's this system breakdown in Iraq, and all things fall apart because the system breaks down in large part because of decisions by the United States and the way that we haphazardly carried out that war. And most of you in here are too young to have any idea what I'm talking about. It just takes a little bit. I don't have time to go into it. But the pathetic decisions of somebody in power who just takes some random knucklehead and says, you plan this war, who has no idea what they're doing, and it causes an entire system to break down. Now we have ISIS and ISIL and Islamic State. We have all these things happening that we pretend as though we are not responsible in any way. Because that's easy for us. So here. A year ago, fall, I was in St. Louis, Lori and I. And it was early in the morning. We were in jet lag. We had just flown back from the Middle East, actually. And we were going to a wedding of a former student of ours. And it was about 3 in the morning, and I couldn't sleep. And I got on Facebook, and I saw a post by my friend. And I knew that something was wrong. I just knew. It was in Arabic. So I copied it, and I put it into a translator. And I started reading through what the translator could tell me, and I said, oh my God, that my friend, father of 2, beautiful wife, parents, family, siblings, his house was bombed by the Americans. No explanation. He didn't do anything. His house was bombed. It's an accident. I said, my God. This war comes home. It comes close to me in a different kind of way. It comes close to my class, my students, all the students with whom he's spoken. That's his brother on top. Mohammed, he was killed immediately. His was the house next door. His nephew, that's Mohammed's son on the right. And that's Basim's daughter on the left. Basim's wife was killed immediately. His daughter, his wife. His brother, his nephew. Next slide. So, I sent him a text message on Facebook, and this is what he wrote back to me. Just the night before. Just the night before. I thought, and I'm in disbelief. How is this possible? And then he sent this photo. That's his house. And the next one. That's his brother's house. Next one. We even killed his dog. It's like, man. Next slide. So, I've invited Basem to come to class today. He's been willing to come, and we're going to talk to him. And Jiggy's going to be down in front, and I'd like 2 people. So that instead of talking to the whole class, he can talk to a couple people. And it would be really nice, just under the circumstances, if I could have one person who's Christian and one person who is Jewish. Just because. Who would like to volunteer to come down? We're all going to talk, but I need 2 people to sit in the chairs.
Up top.
Yo, do you want to come down? And are you Jewish? Come on. Have a seat. Here, sit right here. Hello, Basem.
Hello, Sam. How are you?
I am well. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, as you know. How's that? So I am really, once again, as always, I am honored to have you and feel so grateful to have you. And I speak on behalf of my students. I brought 3 students up to the front. I just feel like sometimes it's better if you speak directly to 3 people instead of the whole class. But let me show you. The whole class is here. Say hello, class. So, can you just maybe you can flip your mics on really fast? Just say hello, say your names and.
Hello.
And you want to look right in here.
My name's Jacob.
Hi, Jacob.
I'm Jiggy. We met last semester.
Yeah. How are you?
Hi, I'm Kayla.
Hi, Kayla.
So, Basem, I'm going to start the questions off, if we could. If I
Okay.
could.
Sure.
You're not going to see me in the microphone, really. I'm going to walk around, but I'm here. You know what I look like.
I know how you look like.
But I'm more handsome than the last time you saw me.
I know since your last trip, I know you're getting younger.
Yeah, indeed. So, first off, tell us, I want to do something before we start. Well, I just want to do one quick thing. Can you put the slide up of the map? This will help with what I'm going to ask you to talk about. So this is Mosul here, and this is Erbil. And Erbil is where Basem is now. And his family home is in Mosul, okay? Okay, so you can back that up. So your son and your mother went to Mosul today.
Yes, my son and my mom, they went into Mosul yesterday, and I really did not have the courage to go back. I told you that maybe I was not going to get the permission to go, but actually I was afraid to go back there because I'm not emotionally ready to go back.
Mm-hmm.
They had to go back. They had to go back because, after the bombing and the liberation of the west side of Mosul, we have some damages to my parents' house. I don't have any more. My house is destroyed, as you know. So my parents' house also had some damage, some shattered the glass. So they went into Mosul yesterday to fix the house. So eventually, if we can go back and live there.
So have you been in contact with them
Yeah,
today?
I talk to them probably every hour.
Yeah.
Because I'm worried about them. Yeah, I'm very worried. I just want them to get back.
Can you help us to understand the fear? Because I think my students, most of us don't. Yeah, can you just help us to understand the fear, what you're worried about?
What I'm worried about, because Mosul is it's 2 parts, the right side and the left side. The left side has been liberated from ISIS. Fighting is still going on the right side, and sometimes mortar shells and rockets are falling on the liberated side. My parents' house is on the riverbank, and it's a close area to where fighting is still going on. So I'm really scared for their safety that some shells might fall near them. So I just want them to get back to Erbil as soon as possible.
So I have to say I'm surprised that you even allowed your son to go. But
Sam, this decision had to be taken immediately because there's no glass in the whole house. Cats, dogs, birds are going into the house. We have a really big house, and I cannot just leave it like this.
Yeah.
I had to make the decision to at least do some repair, and I'm bringing some people to live in the house, so it's safe. Nobody can get into the house.
So I'm going to continue to ask some questions. So before you, okay. Let's talk about the house for a second. So you recently met with the Americans.
Yes,
Your
I did.
kids. Can you
Yeah.
just give us a sense of that? First off, when your daughter was killed and your wife was killed, first off, Basem, what I'd like to do actually, if we could, just as a class, Basem, if you just give me a minute, can we now that you've met Basem, we're going to go to a different place, okay? So we good? Just it's hard for us as Americans. We have this sense here, you've lived Americans well. We have this sense that justice prevails, and it will prevail. And I think that where you're at or what has happened is probably something that people need to know. I know that they offered you, was it $2,000?
The regular pay for a killed Iraqi is $2,500 each for one person. This is how much Iraqi is worth.
So they came to you and said, okay, we will give you $9,000.
They offered 15 as a Solashia payment, and I refused it.
Saying you can't do that.
No, I refused this money.
Mm-hmm. And most recently, we've offered how much for your house?
Nothing. There's no payment for the house.
Yeah.
There's no payment for the house, for two houses, for my cars, a lot of damage to other things, but they paid. They offer Solashia payment. They're not offering any compensation for damage to the material things, building, cars, no payment.
Basem, Americans, so many people in this country right now, one of the ways that we allow ourselves to sleep at night is that we have this sense of Muslims. We see Muslims in a certain way, in particular as being angry and violent. And I've always been struck by your forgiveness and your ability to forgive it all. I'm not implying that you completely forgive, but your ability to forgive at all. And your faith, the power of your faith as a Muslim man. Could you tell us something about that?
Yes, Sam. I don't consider myself as I'm a Muslim by birth, but I don't consider myself as a strong Muslim. Probably when I was in the U.S., I did not even do praying. But this accident drove me closer to my faith. I feel that what happened was meant to happen. It's something that God has planned for me, and that's how I grew closer to my religion. I think this idea of accepting my fate gave me the strength. Even my friends, they talk to me and then tell me, we don't know how, where did you get this patience? But I don't know. It's something strange. You know, for 3 days I did not even cry. For 3 days, you know, I was injured. You know how badly I was injured, and you know about my operation. But for 3 days, no tear was shed. I don't know what happened to me. I was numb. I didn't know what happened. I still was not grasping the idea that my wife is gone, my daughter, my brother, my nephew. But this experience drew me closer to God, and it has made me calmer. I don't know. I have many American friends. Like I told you before in a previous class, I talk to my friends. I talk to my professors. We exchange greetings, just like I do with you. I have nothing against the regular American citizen. I always talk to my friends, even my friends that tell me, "How can you not hate them?" I don't know. I lived among you guys for 8 years. I was never bothered by any person. In fact, many of them, they were very helpful to me. So I have no grudge again. It's not the regular citizen person like you. This situation of war, just like you said, it's big corporations are behind it. And I know, just like I have no power to change anything, I know you have no power to change anything. Except that I want you to know that this war has devastated me. Nobody, never in my wildest dream, that I thought that anything could happen to me. Nobody expected anything like this to happen to him, but it did. So what I want you to understand, that war is ugly, and anything that you don't expect to happen to you might happen to you.
So I just want to, I've heard this before last semester, but I want you guys to realize and sit with what he just said and acknowledge literally what he just said right now. Like, do you guys understand that he has lost like everything? Like, can you sit with it and imagine like losing the love of your life and like your child and like your dog, your brother? Like, can you sit with that? And oftentimes people want to look for blame because that's the easy way to deal with situations. But what he just said this happened by accident. They bombed his house by accident. And he just said he's not even mad at Americans. And he's saying that we're basically in war because of money and oil, of human greed. But he's not even mad at Americans. Like, do you understand that? Like, how much amazing, just wholesome peace
Jiggy,
and patience that takes?
why is that so surprising to you? If you were in Basim's shoes, what would you be feeling?
I think that, well, it's surprising to me because it's not surprising to me that he's not mad at Americans. It's surprising to me that how quickly he was able to,
Wait, speak to Basim.
how quickly
Speak
you were able
directly
to
Basim.
get to that place of peace. I know that when I lost my mother, I was young and I was looking for blame in the universe like any kid might. But I can't really imagine what it would be like to literally be stripped of everything I love in my life. and then just trust God in the process and to believe, like you said, that everything happens for a reason. I guess I am surprised that you're not mad at Americans at all. Like when you said that last semester, I was like, what? That's crazy. How can you not be mad at Americans? But I mean, the way that you explained it afterwards, which I hope you mentioned now, is that you can't live with hate. And when you said that, it all makes sense. So if you could you go into, I don't know if you remember what you said, but you said this amazing thing about why humans shouldn't live with hate in their hearts.
Hate, I told you last time, I remember what I said. I said, hate will consume you. It will eat you from inside.
Yes.
And then you will stop thinking, because afterwards, all I have left is my son, the rest of my brother's family, and my mom. And if I just not stop hating people, then I cannot function. You know, after I lost my house, after my operation, I'm not as functional as I used to. I used to be an account manager with Huawei. I was responsible for Huawei communication in Mosul. I was the manager for the company. They terminated my contract because of the accident. So now I really don't know what will happen next. I cannot. My health now is not as I used to be before. I cannot walk for long. I cannot sit for long. I have backache. I have ache in my pelvis. But I have my son to take care of. I have my family to look after. So if I don't stop hating, I cannot function.
Is there a sort of like a healing process you may have gone through that helped you sort of cleanse your heart?
I told you this accident drew me nearer to my religion in a positive way. Like I told you, I was not a very strong Muslim, but I don't know. There was some bond that grew between me and my God. I thanked him for keeping my son alive. I thanked him that my operation was successful. Now I can walk, because I was on my back for 3 months in Turkey. So I'm thankful for that. My son, I was able to get him married, and I'm happy with him. So, because if I stay mad at somebody, it will affect my relation with everybody. It will affect my relation with my son, and he's the only thing that's left for me, and I want him to be happy. So I have to come in peace with myself, because my angry will get me nowhere. I will just be sad all the time.
Hey, Basem, do you happen to have a photo of your son at his wedding in your house that you could show us?
Yes, I do. Yeah, let me try to find something and send you. I don't know if it says. Let me show you. I have a photo of Yahya and his wife. Just a minute.
Yeah, please do. Does anybody have a question that they want to ask?
Yahya and his wife, Zina.
Oh, yo, very cool. Yo, very beautiful. Hey, wait, let me see again. Hang on, let me see it again. Let me see him. Is that what you used to look like when you were young? Yo, he's very handsome.
You have my photo when I was young. I don't know. You compare.
Yeah, you weren't that handsome, actually. He got those looks from his mother, clearly.
Oh, yeah. He looks a lot like his mother, yes.
Yeah, you can have a sit down. Just hang on one second, Basem. Does anybody else have a question they want to ask? Because you can come down. Do you? Here, you can change. That's fine. Yep. We're going to just switch people out here who have questions. Okay. Just introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Francis.
Wait. Look right here.
Hi, my name is Francis. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Go ahead, ask your question.
So my question is, do you think, like, you went to grad school here, so do you think in today's day and age, and like where America is as a society today, that you would ever think to send your son to grad school here as well?
I think things have changed in the United States from my days. I really don't, I cannot answer you this question, but I can tell you this. In the 80s, our life as foreigners was much easier than it is now in the United States. Yeah.
Hello, my name's Chris. I wanted to ask, you were talking about before how after that tragedy happened, how you got closer to your faith and to God. What made you want to grow closer to God rather than like blame God for what had happened to you, or like blame your faith in that way?
No, I did not blame my God. I told you there's some mysterious way I grew closer. I did not blame God. I know if I don't, in our religion, we believe that everything from the day you are born to the day you die, everything is written in a book that it will happen to you. So I don't know about your religion, but in my religion as Muslim, it says that it's written on I think, the 40th day you are in your mother's womb, that it's written, your future is written, if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're healthy, if you're sick. So I believe in fate. I always tell my friends, I have many friends now in Mosul who are still in unliberated areas, and I always tell them, look, if you have faith in God, if you believe that everything will happen to you is already written, and you will be in peace with yourself. If it's your fate that a bomb will fall, I mean, my house was hit by a rocket, and I was sleeping probably 1 foot away from my wife Mayada, and I was hurt, but I was not killed, but she was killed immediately. So this is something by God. If you believe in this, and then I think you can live in peace with yourself.
You mentioned fate. I don't know if this is too personal, but do you think that it's fate that you are still here to preach this message to all of us here in America as well?
Exactly, 100%, 100%, 100%.
Who
Yeah,
else?
I do believe it.
Who else has a question? Yeah, come down. Who else would like to? You can just say something. You don't have to have a question even. You can just speak. Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name is Julia. So
Hi,
I know
Julia.
for some of us Americans who don't really talk to many people from Iran or Iraq or from the Middle East in general, we can kind of have a skewed view of your general region. So maybe could you tell us a bit as to why you think your country is great and why it's beautiful for those of us who may never go there?
You know, Iraq is an ancient, not Iraq, just the whole region is ancient civilizations. If you're looking at Sumerian civilization, the Babylonian civilization, the Egyptian civilization, so we have a beautiful country, but this country has been shattered. I don't know. I cannot explain why. Sometimes I think oil is a curse. If we did not have oil, I think we will be in peace. I wish we did not have oil because we are not benefiting from it. All it's bringing to us is war, destruction, and I wish you had come to Iraq in the 70s and before the Iran war. Iraq was a beautiful country. Iraq in the 70s was supposed to be moving from the third country to a better place. illiteracy rate was down to 0 in 1970s. We had a free education to everybody. You had a free medical care for everybody. But then everything changed in 1980 when the Iran-Iraq war started. And then it took 8 years for that war to end. And then 2 years later, there was the Iraq invasion of Kuwait. And then the war on Iraq to get Iraq out of Kuwait. And then this 2003 war. And Iraq has been destroyed. It's destroyed.
Well, thank you for helping me understand a little more about what's going on. And thank you
you.
for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Nico. And I was wondering if the roles were reversed and not everybody here is born with a religion.
Hang on. Basem, are you still there?
I think I lost the voice.
So if the roles were reversed and since not everybody here is born with a religion, how would you deal with a bombing or like such a big like devastation to yourself if you didn't have a religion at all? Like, where would you find your strength?
I have no voice.
You didn't hear that?
No, I don't hear. Can you call? Let's call again.
Wait. Okay, hang on. We'll call back. No, that one. There we are. How about that?
Oh, okay. Now we're back on again. Okay, great. Okay, go
so
ahead.
My question was, if you were not born with a religion and you were never like taught to like love God or find faith, where would you find your strength after like a huge loss? How would you like forgive people?
I don't know. I cannot answer this question. This is hypothetical. I don't know. I think we get our values from our bringing, from our religion. That's how we get our values. If we were not taught these values, then where will we get them from?
Okay, who else has a question? Who else? Yeah, come down. Just come down if you have a comment or a question. Maybe somebody just would like to speak to Basem. You don't have to ask a question. Okay, thanks. Hey, yeah.
Hi, my name is Maddie. First, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you taking the time and having the courage to come here and speak to us because I'm very ignorant to the things that are going on in your country, and I'm sure that I'm not alone in this room of 800 people. And I'm sure that it's no secret, especially to other countries, that, obviously you guys are having your own problems over in Iraq, but I feel like America is more plagued with hatred now than ever. And I know that you have gone through a situation where you've had to let go a lot of that hatred and come to a place of peace. And I guess my question for you is, how did you go about taking those first steps? What are things that we can do here to make it better? You have a pretty big audience that's listening, and I don't want to say I'm not proud to be an American, but hearing this story breaks my heart for you.
I told you. First of all, just like you said, Americans, they are not aware of what is going on in other parts of the world. I don't know if it's the problem with education. I think you guys need to in your high schools. You need to get more involved because Americans, they feel that the whole universe is centered around them, to be honest. I've lived 8 years in the United States. Americans think that the world is the United States. If you go to Europe, Americans are not that much liked in Europe. I've lived in Europe for 2 years. After what's happening in the Middle East, Americans are blamed for every war that just like Sam said, Afghanistan, Iraq, everybody in the region blames America for everything that's happening. For me, what I need to this point to be taught to every American is that the United States it's a great power. Nobody can deny this, but you have to use your power in a good way. People also have feelings. People also have interest in their own countries. Now Iraq, I don't know if I'm going back to Mosul. This ISIS situation has destroyed Mosul. My son told me today that I am happy you did not come with me because there are no roads. There is no more roads in Mosul. There's no power. There's no sewage. There's no running water. And everybody's blaming the United States for it. So I think what the Americans need is to be more helpful to people. I told Sam that you break it, you fix it. And he has quoted me many times when I said this. Iraq now needs big help, especially Mosul. And what I'm doing now with other agencies and other people, I want to draw their attention that Mosul now needs help. And I want you guys to go out and sympathize with people of Mosul and try to tell your friends that there are people there. I was talking to my friends yesterday. The liberation of the west side of Mosul has been going on for about 2 months now. He told me that if it continues for 1 more month, we are going to starve. And this friend of mine, he is from a wealthy family, not a poor person. I cannot imagine what a poor person is eating now and his kids. They have nothing to eat. Somebody told me yesterday they were feeding their babies. They are making some mixture of flour and water and feeding the infants flour and water because they have no baby milk. So I want you guys, for your future, you are the future of America. I want you guys to understand that the world does not center around the United States only. You have to be sympathetic to other people. You have to understand their needs. And you have to not just take, you have to give.
Thanks, Basem. That was beautiful. I have a question, actually, before we open up our next question. How is it, many Americans have the idea, especially right now, that Muslims or Iraqis or Muslims hate the United States or just hate the West. That's our way of surviving. But you don't hate, and I don't know that you never mentioned that you know people that hate. Can you just speak to that a little bit, just as a message, that how unique are you?
Sam, let me tell you something. In every religion, there are moderates and there's fanatics. In my religion, the fanatics are growing because people like me who are moderates and probably left moderates, we have I can argue with people, but now everybody blames the West for destruction of my country, whether be it America, be it England, be it France. This situation of being hurt by this power, and when you have some fanatic talking to small children, they can manifest hate in small children. Now, if these children are not educated, we will have a new generation of West-hating people. This is a disaster. Moderate people are now growing smaller and smaller in numbers, unless something is done.
And even those numbers it's still small, right? I mean, help me to understand this. Because my understanding of extremists in all religions, because as you say, all religions have them. But in Islam, or what you see around you, it's still, the extreme ideas are still small, am I right?
Islam is a religion of peace. No matter what you hear, no matter what you say. Islam never tolerate violence. What you see with the terrorist organizations, this does not represent Islam. Muslims love peace. They love their neighbors. If you read the Quran, you will see that we are taught to love thy neighbor. I have no problem with a Christian person. I have so many Christian friends from Iraq who left Mosul at the beginning when this invasion of ISIS. I can understand their anger. They looked at me as a Muslim who kicked them out of Mosul. But after a few months, they came back to their senses. Even my closest friends, I can sense that they were angry at me because they were kicked out of Mosul just for being Christians. But after a few months, they realized that I am their friend. I am still the same person who grew up with them, who went to school with them, who traveled with them. And now I sympathize with the Christians who left Mosul. But not only Christians lost in Mosul, even Muslims left. Muslims, we have about 500,000 people who left Mosul. They are living in Duhok, they're living in Erbil, they're living in Turkey, they're living in Jordan. Their houses were taken over by ISIS. So everybody lost, not just Christians. So you have to understand that what happened in Iraq is not something against Christians. It hurt everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. Okay.
Hi, I'm Drew. Nice meeting you. My question was, it's kind of a two-faced question. So you were offered $4,500 in reimbursement for the loss of your family members. Is that
4,500?
4,500, right? Well, the first question would be, how did hearing that offer of monetary reimbursement make you feel? And do you think this system of reimbursement is just for the loss of family members? If not, how would you change it?
The first time I visited the American embassy in Baghdad, I knew what was the number, the amount. Actually, the amount they offered me was more than they usually do. They told me, like I said before, this is a Solashia payment, expressing their sympathy with me and their way of saying sorry. She said, the lady attorney that I talked to, she said this is not an reimbursement for damage in property. In 2003, when the war started on Iraq, after the war ceased, there was a fund that they started reimbursing people for the losses. And she said, maybe you will have a chance if this war on ISIS stops, maybe this reimbursement fund also will be available, and then you can apply. So I politely declined to accept the amount because I felt it's degrading and ridiculous.
Yeah, thanks.
Real quick though, what would you offer then of victims of loss? What can you do regarding that? Do you think government or embassies in general have a place in dealing with that? Or do you think that should be left simply to the individual with respect to loss?
You know, the system of reimbursement, it's a very, very complicated system. I think you will need new laws, a new government issuing some new orders. I don't know. It's a very complicated process. I've been going through this process for about a year and a half now. It's a very long and tiring process.
Basem, let me help with that. Thanks, man. Let me help with that. Let me just ask my class. So if another country came to the United States in search of something, some resource, and that was pretty clearly you thought that's the case, and in the process they accidentally bombed your house and killed 2 of your family members, let's say a parent and a sibling, how much do you think your family members would be worth? Put a number in your head. And how many of you have a number that's less than $4,500? I don't know what the number is. I don't think you could put.
Let me return the question to you. If an American citizen was killed in a plane accident, how much will his family be reimbursed? If their company was at fault, what do you think?
Just an accident. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes millions of dollars.
Exactly. The bombing of my house, they admitted it was done by mistake. So I feel that I am entitled to be compensated.
Hi, Basem. My name's Christian. And
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
I
Christian.
know that you said that, like, you think that everything that's happened comes down to fate. But I was just wondering if you, like, lived in fear at all for things that could happen. Because I know that even if I thought everything that was part of, like, a grand plan, I would still be terrified living in an area so rife with conflict.
No, I don't want. I was not living in fear because this is your everyday life. You don't know what happened. Maybe if you go out now, you get in an accident, you get hurt. I'm not saying that you have to stay still at home and do nothing in fear of something might happen to you. This is in our religion. I don't know how to explain it in English, but in our religion, and I'm sure maybe in Christian too, is the same thing, that everything that happens in your life is meant to happen. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's fate. I believe in it. That's how I'm living. But I'm not saying you have to sit still. You don't go out in fear of getting hit by a car or maybe climbing a tree, maybe you're afraid you'll fall down and break your neck. Just go around doing your everyday business and just be careful and hope you'll be safe.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
cool.
Hi, Basim. My name's Fatih, and
Hi.
I am from Turkey, and Sam tells me that you've been to Turkey before. And before I ask my actual question, I just wanted to know where you went and what you saw in Turkey.
I traveled to Turkey. First, I went to Ghazi Aintab. I was planning to have my operation in Ankara, but I was advised to go to Adana. There's a good facility for orthopedic surgery. I stayed in Adana for about 2.5 months. Actually, I did not see Turkey because I was at the hospital most of the time, but it's a beautiful country. It's a nice country. The problem in Turkey is you guys, you do not speak English. You want everybody to speak Turkish, and that's a big problem. And I had a problem with that. I had to install Google Translator on my phone and translate from Arabic to Turkish or from English to Turkish. The problem is you guys, you need to be more open to other languages.
Okay, so my actual question was, so I have a lot of family that lives in Turkey, and I'm sure you've heard about the constant terror attacks and bombings that have been happening in Turkey lately. And I was just wondering, because I go to sleep at night fearing for the safety of my family members that live in Turkey. And I was just wondering, as a fellow Muslim, how do you find peace with the idea that at any moment something like that could happen again?
I think, hey, Basem, I think you answered this question already. And I think the issue is my students are young, and they're at the beginning of their spiritual, hang on, I'm going to look at you. They're at the beginning of their spiritual journeys. And when you get to be our age, it's a little different, you know. Bro, and so I'm going to answer that question for you, bro. It just takes time. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait till you get to our age. If we're still alive, you come back and tell us what you learned. Yeah. You just do. You just do.
You got me out of a tricky question.
Yeah. Listen, just a couple more questions because we're almost finished, but we'll go ahead, bro. We'll make the questions fast. You have a quick one?
Hi, mine's not even a question. I just wanted to say thank you so much. My grandfather, his father was lynched, and he saw his grandfather die, and he used to tell me those stories, and like you, he didn't have that hate in his heart, and he was able to grow from that. And unfortunately, my grandfather passed away, but it just goes to show you that unfortunately things I do believe happen for a reason, unfortunately, and I just think it's amazing that you're taking that message and you're telling everyone, because my grandfather did the same thing, and I think it's awesome that there's people like you like that.
Yeah, cool. So. Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you.
Hi.
Push it up.
Hi, my name's Freddie. I also want to thank you for coming in. And so you mentioned earlier that that when you're in the 40th day in the womb, that your entire life is laid out for you, and that it's written in a book. And I wanted to know, do you feel like knowing that that destiny's predetermined helps you deal with tragedy when it strikes and makes it easier to come to terms with it? Or do you think it makes it harder to like accept and move on emotionally when faced with situations?
No, in my case, it made it easier for me to accept what happened to me and move on. For me, it was helpful to think this way. I was okay with it.
Yeah. Listen.
But let me tell you something. There isn't a week that I sit down with myself and remembering my wife, my daughter, my brother, and then I find myself in tears. I'm not saying that you will accept it and everything will be A-okay, but it will help calm you down and not keeping you hating and crying and sad all the time. Life goes on. And the biggest gift that God gave us is the ability to forget. If we did not have this ability, we cannot live anymore. So God, this is a gift from God. Sometimes I go out with my friends, but when I come back home, when I go to bed, thoughts start coming into my head about my wife and what would have happened in probably 5 years from now. My daughter was going to college. She wanted to study this and that. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about them. But at the end, life goes on.
Hey, Basem, this is going to be the last question. We have 1 minute left, so. Yeah, bro.
Hi, I'm really sorry about what happened to you. It breaks my heart. My name is Aiming. I'm from China, and my question is that I feel like a lot of Americans have the perception that their military are the heroes that's fighting dictators overseas and installing democracy all over the world. I'm wondering if Iraqis want democracy after all.
I think in one of my talks to Sam's class, I said that democracy is an evolving process. You cannot teach a country democracy after 30 or 40 years of dictatorship. Your meaning of democracy is different from what people understand here in Iraq. They understood democracy as you can do anything you want. There's no abiding by the law. But democracy is not like this. It's an evolving process over years and years and years. The democracy in the United States has been an ongoing process for hundreds of years.
Hey, Basem, on behalf of all of us here, thank you for coming. Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me.